My name is Basel Abbas. I work with Ruanne and Abou-Rahme, and we are presenting 2 installations at the Glyptotek and Copenhagen Contemporary.
My name is Ruanne Abou-Rahme. I am an artist. I work with Basel Abbas, and the title of the work is The Song is the Call and the Land is Calling. So the exhibition at the Glyptotek consists of And Yet My Mask is Powerful, Part 1, 2, and 3, and then the new commission that we have made for this site entitled It is Easy to Forget What I Came For Among So Many Who Have Always Lived Here.
The way we use our work is to sort of try to open up different possibilities, and we found out about these Neolithic masks that existed. They're the oldest known masks in history, and they were found in different sites across the West Bank, looted basically, and were now in private collections. Another thread in this work that we connected together was during that time of the project that we were making this work or thinking about this, young Palestinians were taking trips to sites of destroyed villages. So there's more than 500 destroyed villages in Palestine, and young people whose parents or grandparents were ethnically cleansed from that village were taking trips back to these villages and activating the sites. So they were renovating the churches, they were renovating the mosques, maybe doing performances there. And so we were very inspired by those trips. And we decided to start taking these trips ourselves, but also take other people who haven't been to those villages and sort of not document the villages, but more like capture that feeling of going back to these sites. And then we brought these things together, right? So we made multiple copies of the masks, and we printed them in different materials, like 3D prints essentially. And we started using the masks in the villages and taking them with us. And so you also see the 3D prints of the masks in the video and sound work.
And what was really powerful was that basically it was through vegetation, like the original vegetation in the site, that we would very often find the village. And what we felt was that, the vegetation was like a living archive of the site that was also resisting the colonial erasure. So, very often if we hadn't found the vegetation, we wouldn't have found the destroyed village, actually.
With all our works, we allow the process of the work to go into the work. Really, the images that you see in the Glyptotek are the research and how it was unfolding. The research becomes almost performative on the desktop, and you see that sort of liveness also in the research. This sort of liveness is something that exists in a lot of our practice. We sort of try to not have this fixed form or this fixed idea even, but this insistence on things that open up and different possibilities and different readings. And then what we see here is like the unfolding of that, or let's say the performance of the research in some way.
And that's also why we decided to work with these small figurines that the Glyptotek has in their collection, that were all things that were, hand-sized, that people used to carry with them and take with them. And we decided to essentially also make copies of these figurines and project them back into landscapes now. These figurines mostly come from like Palestine, Syria, these areas. It's a way for us to think about how these things can be like living matter or living material again. So not just something that's seen as an object behind glass, but really think about what are the power that these things have, how can they be reactivated now, how are they maybe used, in the context of their making, because they were all used. They were not there to just be displayed. Like, for example, the masks were used in rituals and performances. Some of them are death masks, spirit masks. So I think it's really about trying to think about how these things can be alive again.
The work that we are seeing at CC, at Copenhagen Contemporary, make up part of a project entitled May Amnesia Never Kiss Us on the Mouth. The works are Only Sounds That Tremble Through Us, Low Clouds Hum, and Where the Soil Has Been Disturbed. This project really started not necessarily as an artwork, actually. It started as a collection of sound and of videos, online videos of people performing, singing or dancing, and in their living rooms or on the streets. So not necessarily professional singers and dancers. And we were actually drawn to this content online, and we would start collecting this content, but we didn't really know why we were collecting it. It was just really a gesture. And we amassed a lot of videos on our desktops, and we sort of at different stages started to think about, why are we collecting these videos? What does it mean? And at some point, it really sort of crystallized for us that this content was testimony, and it was coming from communities that were being erased. And the singing and dancing, documenting it and uploading it, was a way that these communities were resisting their own erasure. So we became really interested in people's practice. How do people resist their own erasure? So that is really the heart of the project, thinking about how people resist through song and dance. We also then thought about creating our own performances that respond to these collections. So we worked with performers in Palestine, 3 electronic musicians and a dancer, to create new performances that respond to different ideas of resisting. One of the themes one of the ideas that kept coming back was this idea of the break, the fragment. How does the break and the fragment become something that you can generate from as a way of creating new possibilities? You know, we were thinking about more of a living kind of archive, or a sort of embodied archive. So the song and dance and sound become these frequencies that you are able to embody and also project and also resist with.
When we were working on the project, most of the performances that we made actually happened in different sites of Palestine that are under threat of being taken by settlers. So also the filming experience was very tough at times, but part of the process for us is really sort of like not just the filming, but the act of being in these spaces and retaining our right to be on our land. A big part of that project is also the thistles that kind of grow where the soil has been disturbed, and then when they decompose, they bring back nutrients into the land that allow vegetation that existed there but was eradicated to return. Also, the whole color of the project comes from the thistles. It comes from the pink purple of the thistle. So that became the whole color of the project.
And this is very connected to our culture as Palestinians, because, you know, our connection to the land and the connection to our history and our stories are all told through the land. So our food obviously comes from the land, and you know, so all these visceral sort of feeling of being in the land became like a characteristic, I would say, in all our works. So the land is always there in all its living beings around us, because that is what Palestinian culture actually is.
For us, it's like we take people's everyday struggles, people's everyday forms of resistance, forms of endurance, forms of joy in Palestine, but it's really a way to think about the whole world and to think about different forms of injustice that exist and how ordinary people within these contexts try to generate a different possibility for life, a different imaginary for the future. So it's really about amplifying those things and figuring out what is a different possibility for living and being in the world for us.